Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the One Piece Madness. Although I still want to change the name, this is just something temporary. I'm calling this, but if you can find a better name, I will rebrand it.
Write in
Uh,
the comments for a better name.
for sure. It's been probably 2 months now since you've seen our beautiful faces, and apologies for that. It was the holy month of Ramadan, and life came in the way. But now we promise to be more consistent, inshallah. This is your host, Hussein, the One Piece uncle, joined by our co-host Hatim, the One Piece Dada. What's up, bro?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, man. A lot of work. Life has been insane, but I am super hyped to start this One Piece discussion again. And
Life can get mundane, but One Piece is the heat is rising.
One Piece hasn't stopped being insane for the last 2 months, and we just need to keep this up.
I don't think it's not gonna stop because it's closer to the end of it all. So all the big guys, all the people that we love seeing, we're gonna be seeing them a lot often now.
Which is kind of sad because I love the story building in the beginning, the world building, the story building, but now everything good must come to an end.
Yeah, but you have to appreciate like now Oda is smart because he set up these chapters now. Like everything is kind of like you can feel the build up in the world that like there's so many people, big players making a move. Like imagine in the real life where you had like the U.S. and China and Russia and all these other countries making such big moves, or all these big players in the real life. It's the same thing here. Like so many people making moves that no chapters are going to be boring, and there's not going to be much focus on random side characters anymore, I would think.
A lot of people have said that this is not typical One Piece story structure because usually when an arc starts, we're only in that arc and we get news about the outside world in between arcs, like Reverie arc.
Yeah,
Like whenever there's a break between the arcs, that's when we get it. But now we haven't seen Egghead for the last 3 weeks, I think, or
yeah,
we've
I
seen
know.
like bits and pieces, like nothing too insane.
I mean, I feel like with Oda's pacing for post time skip, and I know we have a lot of other stuff to get into, but a few other things to get into, but I want to mention this that I did feel like at one point with One Piece, I was getting a little tad not bored, but a little like, okay, like there were focused on things that I'm not really caring because Bono was so big and there's so many side characters and a lot. Same thing with Dressrosa too. Like there's a lot of things I don't remember just because it's so many things going on, and I appreciate that style of Oda obviously because it's nice to build that world and understand different characters, but it becomes a lot for a reader because you're basically telling us to know everything for the last 1,000 chapters, and that's a lot. That's more than some books, even though it's mostly not words. There's still even the pictures and stuff like that. There's certain things that we need to see and understand. Like they showed in chapter 1082, they showed what's his face, T-Bone, and I'm like, I don't even remember who T-Bone was.
I had to do some googling to realize who
Yeah,
T-Bone was.
same, same.
That guy
I
last time he came was the arc between Water Seven and Indian's Lobby, that mini arc.
Yeah, yeah. I literally had to look that up. I'm like, I don't remember. So I feel like Ennie's Lobby and everything pre time skip was in terms of pacing was actually like the best, only because you had that good balance of keeping the story and getting side characters. I feel like Oda might have gotten a little too fun, having too lot of fun with Dressrosa um
Wano.
and Wano too, because those were really long and they dragged out maybe for 2 years. So now having a little fast pace is really nice.
Well, I wasn't week to week during Dressrosa, but I can see why it could be exhausting. But this is a good segue into the actual chapter of 1082. We want to mix it up a little bit. I feel like our chapter reviews were before was just summarizing the chapter, and we want to make it a little bit more interesting for all of you and me and the One Piece Dada. So to mix it up, I think what we're gonna do now is just talk about potential theories related to the chapter. And something me and Hatim were discussing before this is the end of the chapter of 1082 when you see Sabo finally confronting Dragon and what's his face, Ivankov, and telling them that this is the story. I'm sure anyone who watches this video must know who Morge is, and Mord had covered a video on, I think his 1082 review. He mentioned how he was pissed off at Dragon's character when Dragon found out that Sabo killed Cobra, and Dragon was like, believe the newspaper, and that was complete complete nonsense, if I must say so.
Yeah, his words were probably maybe the worst moment for Dragon that we're gonna see. We'll just leave it at that.
I think it's the worst. He says it's the worst character moment in One Piece in general, because you
Oh,
have a revolution, because you have someone who's going against the world government and who knows the newspaper is created by the world government or heavily influenced, at least depending on Morgan's mood, and he chooses to believe it over a comrade that he's been working with, and basically, actually, he raised this guy since a very young age. So we're me and Hatem were just talking about like how can Oda cover this up? Like, how can this be not a bad writing in character, but maybe foreshadowing? And what was the theory you came up with, dude?
so I mean, I'm looking at first possibility. One, it is bad writing, but Oda really does think about. I know that it's it happens with every writer. There's always those moments where it's like, wait, what? Like, what? Why did this person say this? And you're just okay, whatever. It happened. It's done. I mean, with Dragon, you would think that maybe there's just one thing where you're as a parent, that parent view that as a parent he's like, although he does trust Sabo, Sabo's still a young guy, so maybe he just had some doubt that maybe he did something rash and crazy. So my also view with that was, and I was telling the One Piece uncle that you that when Sabo ate the Ace's Marimara fruit, he mentions to Jesus Burgess that um, Ace will never forgive you for what you did after eating it, implying that Ace's will or some part of Ace is now in Sabo. And we know Ace is a very rash person because when Whitebeard told him do not go after Teach, he did because he said Teach, very like killed what's his face? I don't even remember his name. So I don't remember his name, but he killed him, and obviously Ace went after him. So Ace does have that rashness to him, and he's like Luffy, like they're very rash and very protective people. So maybe for whatever reason, Sabo, Dragon was thinking, oh no, Sabo went to become like did something very rash or something crazy, or was trying to make some kind of point at the referee or whatever, and that's why he did something, because that rash nature and that crazy non-calculating nature is something that he probably does see in Sabo and as himself, and then also with Ace. I know Sabo's always been the more rational one out of the three of them. However, eating Ace's fruit might have influenced him, and again, he's a young guy. So I think basically, Dragon is just having his doubts because he knows that Sabo has a tendency to get very rash. And I know you had your take too.
My take is a lot more left field than Hatem. I think Hatem is playing it conservative. I think that there's still more to Sabo's character than we think, and I've been after I spoke to this, after I told Hatem about this theory, I started realizing as well that Oda put in an amnesia moment for Sabo where he wasn't aware of uh, world events or his past for those 2 years before he found out that Ace died. So what if that amnesia moment? What if those those years when he was in that amnesiac state, whatever the scientific doctor word for that is it possible that that must have changed his character in such a way that he has an evil side to him, where he wants to overthrow the revolutionary army and become the leader, and I think Dragon might have caught wind of this, and he's been more cautious with Sabo. He doesn't trust him fully, maybe he does, we don't know, but maybe killing Cobra was the first step in his master plan, and we still don't know what he's gonna tell Dragon and Ivankov. So what if he just lies to them and fabricates a story about Lelouchia, and then he uses this moment to overthrow the revolutionary army and become the leader? And maybe become another force in finding the One Piece and becoming the next Eam like Blackbeard. Not sure how this would play into the dynamic of Blackbeard versus Luffy versus Sabo, or maybe he wants to just maybe he wants to rule the corrupt government, Sabo. This is just a little. It sounds a little crazy. I know Sabo's not that guy, but
Yeah, I would say it does sound crazy, but maybe if you can, let's make it a little bit more conservative. There's always those people in a group, and Oda takes inspiration from real life, so why not take inspiration from the Russian Revolution? During the Russian Revolution, there was many leaders. Obviously, Stalin. There's Trotsky, other people, and there's people who are very extreme and very liberal. Maybe there's an aspect of Sabo who's more like, because right now we're seeing that the Revolutionary Army is trying to um, defeat the world government, but they're not actually trying to destroy the world government. What they're trying to do is, and they
reform.
mentioned this because Koala mentions this, that they don't think that the world government should be gone. They think that the celestial dragons should be gone. So there could be a possibility that Sabo, again, he's a rash, young person. Young people tend to be more liberal and rash, obviously, which I've said twice, I know, but like it's an emphasis point that he's more like, okay, we gotta kind of go in and be very like direct and just like make our move. So there's a possibility that that's why Dragon was worried about Sabo killing Cobra, because he's just like, oh no, like maybe he's doing more than was intended to do, and that he might have gotten the wrong guy, because Sabo doesn't know Cobra like Dragon knows Cobra or Luffy knows Cobra. So there's obviously that risk. However, we know that he hasn't killed Cobra for sure, so that's clearly the case. It just there's other factors to understand, because we only see Sabo in certain instances. We haven't seen him completely. He's called the Flame Emperor, which is a pretty strong name for a guy who works under Dragon.
So I don't have any solid evidence from the manga or the story to back up my theory, but my only argument for this is Oda has been making everything unpredictable the last 2 or 3 months. Like anything we try to predict, left field. We thought the trader must, in Egghead, we thought the trader must have been what's his face, Shaka, but turns out it's York. No one expected that except a few people, but like it wasn't like too serious of a theory. There have been so many times in the story where unexpected moments are happening, and I think what's expected right now is that the Revolutionary Army will reform the government. They will take over the Celestial Dragons. They will abolish that system, and they will work with Sword to reform the government, basically. And I think Sword is going to be used in that way. So my only argument for this is, what if Sabo is just has an evil streak to him, and he wants to take over. He wants to defeat the Celestial Dragons, but he still wants the power to himself. Or maybe he just wants to be the ruler, like a dictator.
I mean, here's the thing: is I wouldn't say, I'm not gonna put Sabo in the evil boat yet. But however, again, to conservative that viewpoint, that maybe Sabo's wants the Revolutionary Army to be the government, like become the government, and have even if it's a democracy, like whatever. We actually have no idea of what Sabo's actual views is. We know that I do believe, right off, based on what we've seen of Sabo's character, he does trust Dragon. He will follow what Dragon says. However, to how much he agrees 100%, we have no idea. And I'm talking about the small nuances, because again, trying to do a revolution is a big thing. So those nuances of Dragon's view and Sabo's view and Ivankov's view, we have no idea, and we still have to see. And maybe we'll see a little bit more of what their mindset is after Sabo reveals what he found out at the Reverie, which will probably be about Im, which we don't know if Dragon knows at all. Which there's a possibility that he might know something about that as well.
Let us know what you think about Sabo in the comments. Are we full of shit, or is there some substance to this?
I mean, you might be. I wouldn't put Sabo in the evil. I might be a little bit more right. I'm trying to play. Sabo's a great character. I just don't think Oda will make him evil per se. But I do think that eventually, there's also a possibility if Oda chooses to go that route that there's a conflict of ideology between Sabo and Dragon, just because we everyone has their own wills, and he's been around places too, and he's been doing the work. So how the Revolution Army is actually going to play out at the end is something interesting to think about, which I don't know if he will, because it's a shonen manga and it's not like a big political manga, but like revolutions in the end of the day, we know from history that it can get very messy and people have their own views and it doesn't always go. Like for example, even for many American viewers who, if they watch this, they'll see like when Lincoln tried to abolish the slaves, after there's so many different opinions about how to handle reconstruction after the Civil War. And obviously Lincoln died, so then that became he got killed. So that made things more complicated. So we really want to see the okay, what is the revolutionaries' plan after overthrowing the celestial dragons? Is it for them to become the rulers, or are they trying to put a democracy? Because we technically have no definite answer, and then that might be the sticking point with Sabo and Dragon.
On that note, I think that's a beautiful ribbon to tie the Sabo debate on. And before we drag this on for too long, we also wanted to talk about the extended version of Buggy and Shanks's throwback to Gold Roger's execution. Now, a lot of YouTubers have covered the fact that this chapter has been Buggy's greatest character moment and all that stuff, so we're not going to dive too deep into that. But we want to rehash again. This is inspired by Morge's video where he goes over how this throwback really defines why Shanks waited so long for the One Piece. But I wanted to know what you were thinking on why did Shanks wait so long to go for the One Piece before I give my piece.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, so I was thinking back to, and I mentioned to you that it's about that same thing that Relay was saying previously when they're at Saboti. So they were at what their comments were is that that Relay could technically tell them about the One Piece, but but then Luffy said no, he wants to find out himself, and we see that Roger's crew generally has been telling us that for people to find their own answer. Now, I think that when that although yes, Buggy was sick and Shanks waited out for him, it might have been Roger's preference for them as the youngest crew members to not see the One Piece just yet and actually grow and learn about the world and make their own definite understanding of how the world is before they go to the I know yes, just they have gone, but again they're still young compared to Roger and the rest of the crew, that they waited out and then finally see how the world is and then come up with their own answer, because that's the main thing with One Piece that we're consistently getting, and again inspired by Morge and many others, that what is your answer about these things. So we see where like, the poneglyphs, like there's a general push to see what's your answer for the world, and maybe Shanks is like, okay, I don't really have an answer yet, and obviously I still need to learn. So maybe he's like, okay, I'm not going to go for the One Piece just yet. To Buggy's shock, and obviously Buggy's not as smart as Shanks, so maybe that's why he never really realized that's the reason why Shanks said no. But I think that might be a strong reason. It's about that will, that that inherited will too, like to actually grow and experience the aspects of the world, and then come up with your own answer.
So I think we need your help in the comments to fact check this. I think the reason why Shanks and Buggy stayed behind on Logtown when Roger was going to go get the One Piece was because Buggy was sick, and he was so sick he couldn't ride on the Oro Jackson to go to Laughtail. And Shanks decided to stay back for whatever reason, maybe out of camaraderie, maybe out of friendship towards Buggy, to help him heal and get better. And I think he had maybe a chip on his shoulder when he said that I'll go find the One Piece myself one day. And a lot of what I'm saying ties back to what Mord said. So my thoughts aren't 100% original, but Mord did say when Roger came back after going to Laughtail and finding out what the One Piece is, the anime didn't, or the manga maybe also didn't show us what he told Shanks, but when he told Shanks something, Shanks started weeping, as if maybe his dreams were crushed of finding the One Piece himself or going to Laughtail. Uh, So I think what's speculated for what Roger told Shanks maybe is the fact that mm, no one's gonna be able to reach Laughdale in this era, and we're gonna have to wait for the dawn, the correct time for the dawn to go for the One Piece, and maybe at Laughdale or towards or when. So I think maybe at Laughdale when Roger found out the whole story of the Void Century and all the history, I think what he realized was that there will come a time where Joy Boy will come and finally destroy the world government, and the whole story. So I think what Roger learned was that I think this also happened in Fishman Island, where the Sea Kings were like 10, 15 years from now, there'll be another person. I think someone told the Sea Kings that there will be another person who can understand you, and that's like another signal towards the age of the dawn and stuff. So Roger must have told Shanks that, and Shanks must have wept as if like, okay, my dream is crushed. I cannot find the one. It's not the correct time to find the One Piece, and to go to Laughdale. So maybe the poneglyphs at Laughdale were very specific in the sense that there will be a person of this of this character, this stature, this personality, and who will possess the Gomu Gomu no Mi, and only that person will be able to uh, go to Laughdale and get the One Piece. So I think this is why. So this is my own theory here. This is why I think Shanks was heavily interested in getting the Nika fruit. He stole it from CP9, and he kept it in his possession. And when he was at what's Luffy's thing, Goa Kingdom. When he was at Goa
Yeah.
Kingdom in Luffy's town of the Goa Kingdom, he was super shocked when Luffy ate the Nika fruit, because that's not maybe what his plan was. Maybe his plan was to keep it, wait for the time that Roger said, eat it himself, and then become Joy Boy and go for the One Piece.
Yeah, that's not exactly what I was gonna just tell you to add on to what you're saying. Like, yeah, it's possible that he was thinking to eat it himself. He, for whatever reason, we know that Roger didn't have the Nika fruit, but there's definitely another thing that Oda needs to add to the layer is having the Nika fruit necessary to be Joy Boy, or is Joy Boy necessary to have the Nika fruit? You get what I'm trying to say? That is it. Is one does you having, if like for example, if I were in the One Piece world, if I ate the Nika fruit, would I suddenly be Joy Boy, or is Luffy already meant based on his character and everything is gonna be is expected to be Joy Boy based on his actions, and the Gum Gum fruit is kind of like because he's Joy Boy, he gets the Gum Gum fruit.
I think just logically speaking, it's been 800 years since the Void Century, 700, and I'm sure in this time period, someone must have had the Nika fruit, and they weren't able to fully uh, awaken it because they did not have the qualities that Joy Boy had. And I think to awaken special zones or ancient zones or any kind of special fruit, you need special qualities, and I think that's what Luffy had. So I think maybe Shanks was under the assumption that he had those qualities. Therefore, if he ate the Gomu fruit at the right time, he could awaken it and then go to Laughdale.
Yeah, I mean that's really the speculation that we're still kind of waiting for is Luffy already had the qualities, as in is he destined, which is I know it's a very touchy subject for people because that's basically what happened in Naruto with them being Indra and Ashura's reincarnation. People were not happy about that, and I wasn't particularly happy about that in some instances as well. So no one wants that to be that Luffy's the reincarnation of Joy Boy, but you'd wonder what came first, or did Joy Boy's will is Joy Boy's will in the devil fruits and he's eating it and now he's gonna destined to Joy Boy. Although his character was kind of the same, seemed kind of the same before he ate it too. So it's a really tough line that Oda's pushing. So we'll have to really see how that actually is working out. And what that means for Shanks too. You're right that if Shanks steal it and he's like, okay, I'm gonna eat it, so I become Joy Boy, or did he think that okay, I with my skills that I will try to be Joy Boy and then eat the fruit to assist me in that effort.
Yeah, I mean, whatever his goal was, that with the Gomu fruit wasn't achieved because Luffy ate it, and I think that's when he must have realized that Luffy is that guy who can awaken the fruit and become Joy Boy and everything. So that's why he sacrificed his arm to save him. I think that was more of a statement because, dude, Shanks can easily trick up that Sea King. But I think that was more of a statement towards Luffy and him passing down Gold Roger's hat and everything. And
But the thing is, what's tough is okay. What's tough with the speculation is that it's so unclear what Shanks really knows. Because there's no way that Shanks knew when he met Luffy that Luffy would have the voice of all things, like Roger. There's no way that he would have known that because Luffy had no situation to actually prove that he had the voice of all things. That's a big thing. And Roger wasn't Joy Boy, but Luffy is. So it's really a tough thing to say. Well, what's the reason? Even I wanted to mention too in your theory though, Roger does mention. I don't know if it's a Skypiea one or they just mentioned that they were too early to get to the One Piece. So there seems like there's some reason on time could maybe someone else was actually supposed to be Joy Boy who had more of a Luffy personality that didn't get to One Piece. It's very unclear.
yeah, yeah. So I think this goes back to what Mord was saying, where he waited for Luffy to get stronger. He became a Yonko. Then he realized, okay, Luffy is now big enough to get the One Piece, so now maybe I can go in and uh, get there last minute and cut him off.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing
I
is,
think that's why he
so,
waited so long because of the
so
because of the what Gold Roger told him. Everything it has a lot to do with all that.
yeah,
That's
so
not
I mean, the thing is, what I was gonna say is, what your point, I feel like would more just point. My only problem with that is that if we assume that Shanks is gonna be a good guy, Shanks, then him just being there just to kind of have a semi friendly fight for the One Piece, I feel like won't be that fun because. And I know from like in the end fight of Naruto versus Sasuke, where they're fighting to be Hokage, like I just felt like it wasn't the same way as them fighting at the Valley of the End. So in the
Yep.
same context, if Shanks fighting Luffy because he just like, okay, I'm gonna just deter him or test him, I feel like it's not as fun. But if Shanks is gonna be evil, then I can see where Shanks, now has the evil moniker, and then it becomes a very serious fight. There's also that third option where Shanks actually has his own motive of seeing what he's expecting with the One Piece, and so he's expecting to seriously fight Luffy. But the thing is, also, I feel like there's also again the time component still there. So at this point, the world has changed a lot. Three Yonkos are basically gone because Whitebeard was gone post time skip. Now Kaido's gone. Now Big Mom's gone. So he's basically the last Yonko from that last generation. And he's like, maybe that could be a reason why he's like, now's the time that I got to make my move because these guys are getting too close. Kaido and Big Mom were kind of like lax.
Nah, dude, I don't think he was waiting for those three to die. Shanks was never scared of them, bro. Shanks went and confronted Whitebeard alone on Whitebeard's ship on the Moby Dick without issues.
No, I
His
know.
move was hockey, like freaking ruined their crew. He went to Kaido and convinced Kaido not to go to what's his face, Marineford, and
Yeah,
he
no,
went to Kaido
Shanks
alone.
is amazing. I'm not saying he's scared of
Yeah,
them. I'm saying that unlike Big Mom and Kaido, Luffy and them are actively going for the One Piece, and Blackbeard assuming he is, and if Buggy is too, then yes, they're all like pushing. Big Mom and Kaido were kind of like, okay, we have our territories and we have our road poneglyph, but we're not gonna. They never thought about going for the One Piece.
Kaido was always like the Joy Boy will defeat me, so I don't think he was ever seriously going for the One Piece. I think he was
Yeah,
just holding on to the poneglyphs.
yeah. So that's really my point. It's not that he's scared. It's that now all the players are actually actively going for it.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. That they're actually going like the Big Mom and Kaido, even Whitebeard too. Were not. They never thought about going for the One Piece, as far as we know, or at least they were never making an active pursuit that we have to go for the One Piece now. Now all these guys are actively pursuing it. And the other thing is, I want to add this, and I know this is getting long, but one thing that we know that Shanks has a lot of ties into the government and knows about and has a lot of connections with the Gorosei. He knows what's going on with the government. The Great Cleansing too. What does that mean? What does that mean for Shanks saying, okay, it's time to go for the One Piece? Because Eam saying that we have to have a great cleansing, and Shanks obviously having knowledge of the government and talking to the Gore side. Maybe there's something else that he knows that he's like, okay, now we kind of have to be a little bit more active in trying to get that One Piece. Now's the time.
Uh, there's so much speculation, so much. I think we still have another week before the next chapter comes out because I think 1082 came out too early. I think there was not supposed to be any chapter this week or last week because of some Golden Week celebration thing in Japan. So I think there's like a 2 week break.
Yeah, I was looking on the on Viz, and they didn't have, excuse me, 1082 at all. So
It's too
yeah,
early.
yeah, it's too early.
Yeah. So I guess we got to wait for another week. Oh,
we were too early, just like Roger.
oh, man.
But yeah, I
It's
guess we'll have to
almost,
wait for.
it's almost midnight here. Don't make me in my fields, bro.
But
One
yeah,
day.
there's just so much speculation that it's curious to know. But I feel like there might be a actually valid reason besides I'm just interested in having Shanks having his a little bit more motivation besides just him saying, just it being about Luffy. I think Luffy is like one reason at one point, obviously after he met Luffy and gave him his hat. But I think there's a little bit more motivation because Shanks just has too much information to just go on that one thing. Like, okay, Luffy's going for the One Piece, I'm gonna go for the One Piece. You know what I mean? Like, it's not independent enough. He has a lot of knowledge of Roger. He has a lot of knowledge between Gorsei and many others that you would think that he's like, okay, I know when to act, and there might be things going on, plans in the government that he knows that he's like, okay, now it's time. The world's about to change.
Huh. Yep. Makes sense.
He didn't even waste time on the kid either. Like you would think Shanks being would be like, oh, okay, I'll just beat him, but like not ruin him. He basically he saw kid was about to use a crazy attack that would destroy the crew, and he finished him.
I think Shanks would have given Kid a chance if he wasn't so stupid.
I
But
mean,
Kid got cocky, his dick got too hard. Shanks was like, chop that shit off.
yeah, maybe that should be another video. We're talking about what was Oda trying to portray with Kid. Because I know again, Morge did make a video about that, but I mean, we might have our own thoughts on.
I haven't seen that video, so my thoughts will be raw.
All right, I
But
think we should
yeah,
call it a video.
let's end it at the fact that Kid's name backwards is in fact Dick. Good night, guys. See you in the next one. Peace.